Hey guys, welcome back to the Universal Plywood channel. If you need a coffee table and you've got some Siberian larch lying around, because everyone has that, and you've got some plywood lying around, which everybody has, then stick around. I'll show you guys how to make something really cool. No, I'm just kidding. Go to Universal Plywood and get some plywood. Then also ask them to give you something called Siberian larch. What is Siberian larch? It is wood that looks like this. It's a conifer. It's part of the pine family. It grows in snow. It's hard. It's beautiful. It's fun to work with. It's easy to get. It comes in all different forms from Universal Plywoods. We are going to make a coffee table. Part one of this video is going to be about making the base out of these legs, solid base. It's going to be some hand tools involved. It's going to be awesome. Second part of the video is going to deal with just how we do the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to cheat and we're going to make something very clever. We're going to put a plywood base and we're going to clad it with nice thick pieces of this wood to give it stability and strength. And we're going to put a nice solid trim around that to make our top absolutely beautiful and weatherproof, bulletproof, everything proof. What we're going to do is we're going to deep saw this. We're going to cut it in half and we're going to take it and what we're going to call, sometimes it's called book matching or butterflying. We're just going to butterfly it open or book match it open, and we're going to create a beautiful surface for our coffee table. In order to do that, actually, we're going to joint it, which means we're going to take our edges, get them nice and square, nice and straight, so that we can take our boards and joint them together like this. Once that's done, we can apply that to our tabletop, put some nice thick edging around the outside, and we will have what appears to be a big, solid Siberian larch table, but in fact, our sneaky little secret is that we've got plywood underneath, and that's going to keep the top stable, especially in climates like Durban, where we are in South Africa here, where it's humid and hot all the time, and our temperature variances are quite radical. So this is a very clever way to get stable, sturdy furniture out of something that is just it's not even quite a veneer. It's a very thick veneer or a very thin, solid layer over a plywood base, which is going to make this incredibly stable. So if you want to see how we do that, stick around because it's going to get fun. Here, poof. What we've done is we've made our template, right? What we're doing now is called rough marking. And we're just going to trace this onto our pieces of wood to make sure that A, we have enough material, and B, we know where we're going to be cutting. So I'm going to take a pencil and just trace that curve onto our leg. Now the cool part about this design is that there's almost no wastage because we can flip this way, which means we're wasting far less material and we are economizing. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. I'm going to rough cut here, there, and on our edges, so we've got smaller pieces to work with. Then we're going to head over to the bandsaw, cut these out as accurately as we can. Once that's done, we'll be able to do the joint. So now we've got our 4 legs roughly cut out. We can head over to the bandsaw, cut on these lines. Okay, so this is where the tricky part comes into it. We're going to pick a very simple angle of 45 degrees and we're going to notch out half of the one piece of the leg and half of the other piece of the leg. We're going to overlap those kind of like an angled half lap joint. Again, you don't need fancy tools. All you need is a pencil. You need a combination square and a ruler. And the good part is that you only really have to think this through once. Coming close, I'll show you how to do it real quick. What we want to do here is we're looking to create a 45-degree angle from the center in both directions at the thickness of our piece of wood. Now, it seems very, very complicated, but let's start from one and let's go from the beginning. Right, so what we want to do is establish where the middle of our center piece is. So we know that this is 600 and we know the middle of that is 300. So there's our middle. What we're going to do is mark that lightly, and with our little square, we're going to strike a line right across the middle here like that. There we go. So that's our middle point. At a 45-degree angle, we want to remove pieces on either side of this line. Luckily, with a combination square, you have a preset 45-degree setting, and what we're going to want to do is find the center point of this piece of wood. Now we know that this piece of wood is 33, and we're going to find the middle of that, which is 16 and a half. So there is where our center point is. Right. So just to help us out, we're going to strike a 45-degree line right through the center of this piece of wood. There it is like that. Okay, so that's our center, that's our angle. Our wood's going to be at this angle, and we want to go again
16.5 mils in that direction and 16.5 mils in that direction. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is to come across on the other side as well and also draw the 45. Right, now we have a thing that looks like a star, and we can use that for all our measuring and marking in either direction. From there to there we want to measure 16.5, from there to there we want to measure 16.5. So very simple, all we're going to do is use our nice ruler and just mark in 16.5 from there, and we're going to go here to 16.5 and we're going to mark that. And those two little points over there, that point there and that point there, are our points for our lines that we want to remove. So we're going to add some more lines here. There's one, shift that along, there's the other. Okay, so all of this material here needs to be removed, but we also need to remove it halfway down this piece of wood here. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow these lines all the way down here, and we know that this material is 50 mils or 5 centimeters, and we're going to mark half of it out. So again, we can take our combination square, set it to 25 mils, and we can just trace that line right across our material there like that. So there's our line. That's going to come out. On the other side, I'm going to trace this again. So you should be able to see from your side now. I go to there and I go to there, and all I have to do again is use my 25 mil setting on my combination square, draw a line, and that is our material that's going to be removed. So it seems very complicated, but it's really not. Okay, so now it's easy to get confused again and go like, which direction does this go in? Is it a mirror image? Is it not? What you're basically dealing with here is an offset, and there is quite an easy cheat. We know that the thickness of this material is 33. So when we cut these, we had some offcuts. In fact, even our legs are the same thickness. So what we can do is we can have a little cheat here. We can use this to set the offset. So I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to butt it up flush to the end of this here like that, just right there like that. And that there is my offset. So if I take that point and I mark it there, and I take that point and I mark it there, then I can continue these lines straight through and allow for my offset. So all I'm doing now is I'm taking my combination square and I have set my offset the same by just using the other piece of material. And now I know I can remove that material there. So it's quite an easy, quick cheat, but it definitely saves like a whole lot of headache. Right, so now if you have a look carefully, you'll notice that these two pieces are offset by that much. It looks like it won't fit together, but it will fit together perfectly because we just flip the one over the other and off we go. Let's go and cut these things out. Actually remarkably quick. Right, so let's do a quick test fit and see if our width of our channel is correct. So if I take my test piece and I pop him in here now, that's looking good. Okay, that's a pretty decent fit. Part of my crusade to get everyone back into hand tools. I think that there is huge value in knowing how to use some basic hand tools. Now, I mean, you don't get more basic than a mallet and a chisel. There we have one half of our half lap nicely done. Now we have to do the other one. Okay, so what we can do is, again, pop this into the workbench holding. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let's double check our fit. Okay, so that there is that's going to be our fit, we can see, except now we have to go the other way down. But it actually helps to fit that and then trace this line to make sure that we cut out exactly the right amount. How do we do this accurately? Okay, so we want to use hand tools to do this job. Again, there are so many quick and easy ways to do this, and one of the quick and easy ways to do this is, again, to cheat and let some tools help you. So we know that we've got our 45-degree square and we can trace this on this line. I'm going to use a marking knife, and I'm going to take a marking knife and I'm going to score this line right on there so that I'm actually creating the beginnings of a saw curve. And I'm going to do the same on this line over here. I'm going to use a marking knife to set up my first saw kerf. Now, what exactly is a saw kerf? It's the thickness of your saw blade, but we're going to create a quick knife wall. And how I've done that is I've just taken my chisel and I've pushed it into the wood up to my knife line that I've just created with my knife. Now, you can see what's happened is I've actually created a perfect little slot for my saw, and I know that when I put my saw in there, I am accurate. You can't get more accurate than that because you're actually on the knife line, and just with a very simple hand saw, I've removed that material in a perfect space. Now, here's the fun part. I can just saw random saw kerfs right down to my line, so that all we have to do is chisel out the waste with a chisel. Okay, that's the hard stuff done. All we're doing now is we are removing material. So from this side, I'm just going to take my chisel and look how quickly that comes out. Boom. Out we go. Let's go slightly closer to the line. Even closer. And I come from this end, just slightly above the line. And all that's left to do is to use your chisel and work your way flat down to your gauge line. So again, this is not difficult or complicated. You just need a relatively sharp chisel, and those are easy to come by. You just need a tiny bit of know-how, and before you know it, you have a perfectly cut, angled half-lap joint. You could use a table saw to do this. You could work out the angles. You could use a router to do it and work out the angles, but I think that is by far the easiest, fastest way to achieve that. Let's do a test fit and see how we're doing. What could be better? All right, so now we have to join our legs onto our cross beams, which we've already notched out, so those look perfect. We have to join these legs onto here now. A couple of ways we can do it, and I think for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called a domino machine. Now, yes, it's an expensive tool by anyone's measures. It's not a cheap toy, but it does make my life simpler and faster. So because I have one, I'm going to use it. I'm not suggesting for a second that everybody has to rush out and buy one. Of course, if you do, that's rad. But what you can do is you can use dowels, you can use pocket screws, and you can use several other ways of joining. In my view, use whatever method works for you. It's going to be in the bottom part of the legs of a coffee table. It's not that visible anyway. I'm just going for speed and strength right now, so I'm going to use my domino. Dowels will work fine, pocket holes will work fine, hell, glue and screws will work fine. So you don't need to overthink it. Just use whatever method works for you, whatever is easiest, most accessible, and of course the most fun. I'm going to get stuck in and do these dominoes. Once they're done, we're going to glue this up and we get on doing with our, we're going to get on with our top. Okay, the top's where the magic is. This is where the famous Gorilla Glue comes out, and all we're going to do is put a decent amount of glue in this glue joint and wait for it to work its magic. Nice bit of glue on that one, nice bit of glue over here. So let's get that in there, let's get that in there, get that lined up. Fantastic, that's one glued up. And because we're going to spend some time shaping this assembly once we've actually got it all dry, I'm not that concerned right now with total perfection. I just want it to be glued up well enough to withstand us working on it with a router, on a router table or by hand. The idea here is that all we want right now is for those 2 pieces, or 3 pieces rather, just to be nicely glued up. That's perfect. Okay, right, that's good. That looks good, and we are waiting for that to dry. Okay, so what's next? Next, we're going to start dealing with the top. Remember that our dirty little secret here is about using plywood underneath the top to make sure that the wood that's on top doesn't bend or flex if it's going to be outside. What we're going to do is we're going to machine our pieces for the top. We're going to make them out of a single piece of 30mm or 35mm material. We're going to cut thin strips. Once we have those thin strips, we're going to put those on top of a piece of plywood to make a top. We're going to use solid wood for edging. So we're going to have this really sexy top, but it's going to have this like little secret, and it's going to be able to stay straight and flat for all time. Okay, so let's get cracking. We've deep sawn this wood so that it's only about 7 or 8 millimeters thick. The clever part is that it's going to be laminated or glued to the plywood that's underneath. So between you and me, it's our little secret. No one will ever know, but it'll look like a solid wood table, but it'll have some very, very clever ply underneath it to keep it straight all year round. I'm going to use a nail gun or a pin nailer. This is a 28 gauge pin nailer. So it's very, very small pin nails. You don't even see them, but I'm going to use that to hold the wood down while the glue dries. If you don't have a pin nailer, it's not a problem. You can just put weights on this. But because I'm in a bit of a hurry and I want to get this done quickly, I'm going to use the pin nails to hold things in place. But the glue will hold it. You just need to put glue, and you can put some heavy stuff on, take a few bricks or a few blocks, put them on top of this, and you can wait it out for about maybe 45 minutes or so, and then you're ready to go. But because I'm in a bit of a hurry, we're going to glue, use nail guns, and crack on. Okay, so this couldn't be more simple. Look at this. All I'm going to do, flip this around. I'm going to squeeze my glue out onto my surface, or even onto my wood, and I'm going to use a spreader and just spread my glue nice and evenly. That's good enough. I'm going to line that up like that, nice and flush with my edge. We're going to trim this anyway, so it hardly matters, but I'm going to try and save myself a bit of work by just lining it up a little bit. And to make life easy, I'm going to hit the corners first. Hit the other corner there like that. Then I can go in the middle, and for now that's perfect. So next one. Like I said, this is pretty simple stuff. So onto our plywood with our glue. Now remember, I'm using Gorilla Glue here because I want this to have sort of all weather resistance. I want this to be able to withstand temperature changes and moisture and all of those things. So we're just going to butt that up to the one next door. Okay, right, so that part is done. Of course, like I said, you don't have to have a fancy pin nailer. You can just use glue and some heavy weights, get a brick, your fat friend, whatever. Just put them on there, hold it down, wait until it dries up. It's all good. Loads and loads and loads of decent glue, and the whole idea here is that the pins will hold it in position while the glue dries. Once the glue dries, it will do the bulk of the work. And then just flush to the top, we're going to line up this bit of trim. So I'm going to use a different nail gun this time. I'm going to use a 50mm brad nailer. because I want to put in some very secure fasteners here to get that all nice and flush. And then I'm going to do the same on this other end to make sure that I am flush before I work my way down the middle to make sure everything is in line. There is good. Okay, so that's what we're going to see is our top looking like that. And we're just going to put our sides and our other piece on. Right. This is what it takes to make an emotionally stable table. Okay, all right, cool. So Alright, so the whole idea here, again, is just don't be shy with the glue, especially on the ends now, because those are going to be end grain to end grain joinery. So there we go. Just plenty glue. And we're going to go right into position, just like that. So because we have our gun handy, I'm just going to do it right here. And I'm going to go there like that, and I'm going to get this guy right into position over there. That's better. Right, so this is it. We're in a place now where we are ready to sand and seal this. Let's do a quick dry assembly and have a look at what our table might look like. It's kind of a sneak peek. This is the fun part where we start putting things together. So I'm going to take those legs out of clamps, I'm going to put them together, we're going to drop this top on, and we're going to have a look to see what it's going to look like. So don't go away. Okay. So that's going to go like that. That's going to go like that. That's just going to go right over the top like that. And we're starting to look like a thing. All right, good. Okay, so it's taken a while, but there we are. So this is what it's going to look like. Now we have to do the sexy stuff. I'm going to do some sanding and sealing. We're going to round over the legs. We're going to glue them up, get them onto this top. Right, now we have to make it look sexy. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to add a round over to the parts of the leg that you see. So we're going to make it all sort of round and smooth and kind of hot looking. So what we're going to do is use a round over bit in a palm held router. Now, you can use a router table if you have one. You can use a handheld double router. I like these trim routers because they're easy to use. They are great value for money. They're plenty powerful enough to use for a job like this. And I just find them really, really simple to operate with one hand. So I'm going to use a palm router, and I'm going to do all the edges of both of our legs, and then we're going to put our legs together, and they're going to look amazing. Now, what a difference a router can make. It's crazy how much just it's more modern, how much cooler that looks. So let's do the other one. We've got some cleanup to do on the feet here, but we'll sort that out last. Okay, so that's how quick you can do it with a router. What happens if you don't have a router? What do you do if there's no router in your life? You can use a block plane. You can use sandpaper. You can just round it over. If you have the patience, you can even do it with a chisel. Okay, let's get this guy together and see what he looks like now. All we have to do now is a wee bit of sanding, and we are ready to attach this to our top. We're going to skip through that part pretty quickly on this video, but if you want to see the in-depth sanding videos, remember we've got an in-depth sanding video and an in-depth video on finishing as well, so check those videos out. But in the meantime, we're going to smash on with this, get this coffee table done. Okay. So you can see the speed at which I was traveling. I wasn't going very, very fast. The other mistake that everybody makes is that they think that if they've missed an area, let's say that there's a ridge and they haven't sanded past that ridge, that what they need to start doing is tipping the sander and getting the edge in there to try and rub that ridge down. That's the worst thing you can do. Sanders must always be used flat and flat only. Keep your sanding pad flat for two reasons. Number one, you'll get a far better finish because you won't have dips in the wood. And number two, your foot sanding pad will last longer because you're not bending the corners. So the idea here is to remember to just keep your sanding pad flat and travel at a consistent rate throughout the whole board. If you miss it on the first pass, not a problem. Then you go with the next grit and you go over that area again. And so you go until you get down to the level that you want. If there's a ridge, don't be tempted to push it down and try and work it. Just keep the sanding pad flat. I'm just going to hand sand right on the edges here just to take the very sharp sections off. So that is ready for finish. All I have to do now is just wipe it down with some mineral spirits or some, even just water will do. But just wipe it down, make sure that all the stuff, all the dust is out of the pores and out of the surface, and then we put our finish on. We should be able to see very quickly whether or not I did a good job. In order to secure the legs to the base, we're just going to use simple Z clips, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So there you go, guys. There's our coffee table with our dirty little secret. It's an all-weather table that can handle everything, and the reason why is because there's plywood in the underbelly of this table. If you wanted to see any of the tools that we have, you want to get hold of any of the tools that we used during the course of making this video, check out the links below. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Check out the rest of our stuff. We're making more and more content the whole time. If you guys have got questions about this stuff, about Siberian larch, and you want to know more about it, what you can use it for, pricing, availability, all that stuff, call Universal Plywoods. Guys, there's branches all over South Africa, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, Johannesburg, Durban. Get a hold of these guys. They're available online. You can chat to them. You can ask us questions in this very channel in our comment section below. We'll try and get back to you. In fact, we will get back to you. So if you have any questions about this stuff, it's an awesome material. It's fairly new to South Africa. It's not been around forever and ever, but I think if you guys give us a try, you'll be quite impressed. So give us a shout if you need any info.